Welcome. We have Ambassador Hemant Singh. Let me just ask a couple of questions to him now. Hemant, if you could just start by saying just a little bit about the nature of bilateral relationship between India and Japan.
This has been one of the most amazing relationships in Asia. Of course, we go back 2,500 years in terms of civilizational contacts, and our civilizational imprint reached Japan about 1,500 years ago. But to look at modern times, about 100 and few more years ago, we in India, as we were struggling for independence, we looked at the successes of Japan in modernizing this great Asian nation, and we felt that one day we too can aspire to freedom and to success as an independent country. And since then, as you know, there are no history issues between our two nations. After the war was over, we immediately moved to sign a separate peace treaty with Japan. We had Indira the elephant. We provided iron ore to Japan at a time when it was needed. And finally, of course, we also became the first country to receive Japan's ODA.
Indeed. Everything that you say sounds music to my ears, really. The second question is about the bilateral issues. Hemant has been very much instrumental in making lots of things happening, like comprehensive economic partnership agreement, scaling up the defense relationships between the two nations. Are there any things that you're very much keen on looking at happening?
Well, Tom, we are this year celebrating the 60th anniversary of our bilateral diplomatic relations.
Yes.
And there is complete bipartisan support in both capitals for taking our relationship forward. Indeed, there is a lot of unfinished agenda on the bilateral side. We have an economic partnership which was launched with the CEPA, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, a couple of years ago. We have to fulfill that promise by taking forward our mutual investments, our manufacturing collaborations, our economic partnership forward. Second, we also have to look at what on the strategic side, or the economic and strategic side, we have left undone. First, I would say we need to conclude a rare earths agreement, which I hope will be happening very soon. The joint exploration of rare earths in India, because those are very special ingredients for high technology industries.
Understood.
And the second would be the completion of our civil nuclear agreement.
Which is also important.
Yes.
Yes. The third question is about our regional focus. Arguably, Japan is the oldest democracy in this part of the world, definitely the first modernizers in this part of the world. And then India is the biggest democracy humankind has ever had. What can we do together to enhance the safety, peace, rule of law, orderly development for this part of the world?
There is no doubt that underpinning our transformation of India-Japan relations, the fundamental cornerstone is our shared values as democracies which believe in the rule of law. We have a shared commitment to promoting regional peace and security. Our defense ties have been building over the last couple of years. We started with a security agreement in 2008. We also moved on to an action plan in 2009. Finally, now, as we stand today, we have annual meetings of our defense ministers. We've just launched a joint naval exercise this year, and hopefully we will be able to build a maritime partnership from Sasebo to Port Blair, all the way across the rest of the Indian Ocean to Djibouti. And this, along with an initiation of defense industrial cooperation, would serve both our nations very well.
I like your phrase, Sasebo to Port Blair, which is part of the Andaman Nicobar Islands, and then Djibouti, where Japan is running its first overseas base.
That's right. It's not really known that India, apart from being a continental power, which sits astride the broader expanse of the Indian Ocean, we have island territories, more than 500 islands in Southeast Asia, in our Andaman and Nicobar chain.
Yes.
Hello, I'm Hemant Krishan Singh. After a gap of some 300 years, Asia is once again returning to its historic place at the center of the global economy. The ADB estimates that by 2050, Asia will account for more than 50% of global GDP. Both geoeconomic and geopolitical shifts of power are occurring. India too, at this juncture, has returned to Asia by joining the East Asia Summit in 2005. This was welcomed by Japan, India's major partner in Asia. At a time when several regional powers are rising, it is important to construct cooperative frameworks for regional security and also for regional economic integration. Japan and India, I believe, are uniquely placed to be partners in this process of regional architecture building. What we call the arc of advantage, Japan terms the arc of freedom and prosperity. And together, we have crafted what is increasingly being called the confluence of the Indo-Pacific. Now, in the overall calculus of Asia's progress and prosperity, the Indian Ocean region will play a central role. India's geographical location at the crossroads of Asia, as well as India's Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which are located virtually in Southeast Asia, give it a unique position and also give it major responsibilities. I would just like to say that the 6-degree channel, which is the main channel leading up to the western entrance of the Malacca Straits, is alongside the southern tip of our Andaman and Nicobar Islands. India can build a regional hub for maritime security, and this can comprise all aspects, including freedom of maritime access, safety of sea lines of communication, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, capacity building among regional states to achieve these various goals. And this is a task which we are undertaking by strengthening our maritime outreaches and by changing our mindsets to focus increasingly on the broader Indian Ocean region. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tomohiko Taniguchi. Let me just say 3 things, only 3. Firstly, the Japanese should expand their mental map of East Asia now to fully include India. India is an immediate next-door neighbor to Myanmar and Indonesia because of its Bay of Bengal Islands, Andaman and Nicobar, sitting most neatly at the choke point for the Strait of Malacca. India is a residential East Asian power. How much aware are we of that? That leads me to the second point. To preserve the freedom of navigation through the Malaccan Strait, India has a pivotal role to play, which Delhi is more willing to do than ever before. Japan, as the oldest democracy, and India is the largest, can, indeed must, work together to preserve and enhance the rules-based international order, a task only democracies should shoulder. Recently, Japan chose to come closer to India, strategically as well as economically. Tokyo aims at achieving a quasi-alliance with India, short of a treaty of such. The India-Japan Comprehensive Economic Partnership has been a big success. This year has seen the first ever bilateral exercise between our two navies. We are on a right track. The more traction we have, the better we are going to be served. Let us aim high to achieve more. Whose sake is all this? That is my third and final point. I would argue that it is much more for Japan's own sake. Never before Japan has needed friends and partners as it does now. Now is the time for Tokyo to do everything possible to broaden its strategic space. In order for Japan to keep its strategic breathing room wide open with fresh air, Tokyo ought not to run alone. Our common goods of freedom of movement in outer and cyberspace and on the seas should also be kept safe, stable, and rules-based. To safeguard our common goods, Japan also works together with partners. That is why Japan needs India even more than vice versa. India is a common law-based democracy, indeed the largest democracy humankind has ever had. In India, we find Japan's natural running mate, its sense of responsibility over the Indian Ocean region, its sheer growing clout all make a country that Tokyo can count on more than ever before. Ever since the end of World War II, each year on the 6th of August, India's parliament has never failed to offer a silent prayer to the victims of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We in Japan belatedly and finally have now come to know that. Thank you. Hemant, we have spoken first about the nature of our bilateral relationship, which is of course very good. Second, about the bilateral relationship, whether what we can do more together. And then we have spoken a little bit also about the future regional architecture, which has to come based on shared values and law-obeying democracies. Now, in your own assessment, what is going to be your final word?
First of all, on the regional architecture issues, I think we need to step up our cooperation on building the East Asia Summit as the premier forum for political and security issues in the region. When many powers rise, you always need a security architecture, and this is probably best done under the EAS. Second, we need to follow up on regional economic integration, and again, I think we have come very close to defining the regional comprehensive economic partnership anchored in ASEAN as a good framework for both India and Japan. Third, I think there has been a long history when Japan has helped to build Asia's economies through better infrastructure. I think the area programs, which are run alongside the efforts of the ASEAN Secretariat to build India-ASEAN infrastructure, are going to be very important for the future.
Let me just jump in and say, in this age of so-called power shift, the Japanese diplomacy has chosen to anchor itself more firmly with like-minded maritime democracies, among which, of course, India stands out as the most important partner. So let's go on. Yep.
Well, at the moment, we certainly are conscious of the responsibilities which lie on both our nations to make sure that Asia's rise comes with stability, with progress and prosperity for all countries in the region. And as far as the two of us are concerned, there is growing recognition in our capitals that a resilient Japan is in the best interests of India, and a vibrant India is in the best interests of Japan. And this really implies that we build a mutually reinforcing structure for security cooperation and a vigorous economic partnership between our nations.
I think you have just heard a very memorable phrase: resilient Japan, vibrant India.